Hey guys, I started homeschooling my kids when my oldest was just finishing up 7th grade going into 8th grade, and I remember being just terrified at the idea of doing homeschooling high school and thinking, I don't know how to do it. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be preparing him for life as he's going to experience it. And I already filled up with guilt before I had even started because I just really didn't feel confident in my ability to know what to do. And so since then, we've really leaned into the Thomas Jefferson education, leadership education model of teaching, and I'm also using a lot of well-educated heart principles and resources. So today, I just want to tell you what my 3rd high schooler is doing. So I've already had that one that started from 7th to 8th grade. He is in college now and loving it. Loving it. I hope he does homework because he's just really loving the social, but he's loving it. He will call me and say, hey, I got this assignment about this poem and let's go ahead and dissect this poem together because I'm just so excited about it. And I think, there you go, now we've got you in the right major. And that was a real problem for the first year or I don't know, 2 maybe, that he was going to college not the right major and really not enjoying school at all. And now he's loving it. He's just on fire. And I think, okay, we've dialed in, we found your major. That is just really exciting. So I don't know if this helps or maybe scares you more, but it's always, there's a lot of work that goes into it. It doesn't matter if you homeschool or public school or whatever, it takes a little bit of time to figure that out. My 2nd child, I do not think he will ever question what he's doing. He has known for years that it was either going to be physics or it was going to be computer programming. And he's pretty much dialed in at this point that he's going with computer programming, and he loves it. He's not actually, he's taking a break right now. He is doing a service mission for our church, but I know that when he's done with that mission, he's going to go and just jump right back into college and love it. I think he almost has his associate's degree before he graduated high school. So he loves college, and I'm not saying this to be like, wow, I'm so successful or whatever. We've gone over the rocks. I'm just saying this is possible. And it can be really exciting and really fun when you're doing it, knowing that on the other side of this, they're going to be socially adjusted, they're going to be happy people, they're going to love learning, they're going to find their niche. Maybe not instantly, certainly was not instant with my oldest, but I do see that he's pulling out of that and we're getting to a place that's really fun and exciting. So after that, I'm going to now tell you about my child who is my oldest high schooler in the home right now. He is 16. He'll probably be 17 by the time I release this video. But the point is, he's right in that range, and he has a lot of things that he has now really found that he's interested in. But one of the things that TJED, Thomas Jefferson Education, really emphasizes is that you shouldn't be knowing precisely what you want to do when you're 16 or 17, because you're 16 or 17, right? This is still the time to be trying lots and lots of new things. You should spend time on the things that you're interested in. That absolutely, that's where your passion comes from. That's where all of your enthusiasm comes from. That's how you're able to do the hard things, is because you're able to pursue things that you're interested in. But there should also be lots and lots of exposure to new ideas. So I'm going to tell you what his overall schedule looks like, and then kind of an idea of what his daily schedule looks like. He has, I don't know how many, these are the subjects that he covers. Piano, because he loves it. Nat and Phys, he also really loves. World history, because he has to. He does not love that one. He takes Thomas Jefferson TJED High is what it is, and I'll tell you what that is in a minute. Then he is taking a spelling class because he feels that need. He feels like it's just something he really wants to work on. He's also taking a writing class, Brave Writer, and he's also reading a book on logic. And last semester he did SAT prep instead of the logic book. Okay. So that's those are the subjects that, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so just 6. Oh, and seminary. He also takes a class every morning that lasts about an hour. So 7 classes that he is taking every single week. And that's basically the overview of what he does. So now I want to drill down and talk about what we do for each of these. Piano. We use Piano Panacea, and we also have him in a thing called Creative Piano Festival. I don't remember what it's called. Maybe I'll find the link and put it in for you. And this is because his particular style of playing the piano is really creative, that he can just sit down and play lots of different songs based on a theme. Whereas I have other kids who like to play the piano, but it's let me find the notes that I'm supposed to play and make sure they're in the proper timing and everything. He has a natural ear for music, and he can just find that rhythm that works really well for him. And as a result, he's just flying through piano. We did not start until, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3 is when we started him on piano. And he is excellent. He's really, really good, loves to perform, just does a really great job on piano. And I love the music that he plays in our house. It really makes it a wonderful thing. So he practices piano with no influence from me at all, except maybe I tell him he has to stop. At least an hour every day, sometimes 2. He just really loves playing the piano. Then he has that class from Piano Panacea, that's once a week for an hour. And then he has a class from the Creative Piano, and that is an hour every week. So he has those, they're just online classes, and so he joins on Zoom. We actually bought him an arm to go over the piano so that he can attach an iPad and play the music, and so they can see his fingering while he's doing it as well. So that has kind of been something that we've put money into, but we do that as our kids get older and we start seeing where their interests lie, then it's time. And I am more willing to put money into stuff when I feel like that's something that you are really developing, and I want to help support that. So that's piano. Then he has an anatomy and physiology class. This is another thing that he absolutely loves. He's really passionate about it. And I found an online teacher from the Well-Educated Heart Academy. It's the arm of Well-Educated Heart that's for the older kids. It's the very advanced learning. This is not the poetry and stories and art and stuff that is mostly what Well-Educated Heart does. This is the more advanced stuff. And the teacher is phenomenal. He is so amazing. I will listen in sometimes, like the other day I was listening and he was talking about a certain part of the brain will actually physically shrink as you are under stress for a really long time. And as it shrinks, you are less able to deal with that stress. And then your amygdala, which is your emotion center of the brain, gets hyperactive. And so as you are under a lot of stress and strain, you're less able to deal with it, and you're more inclined to respond in a hyperactive, stressful, bad way, right? You're going to be either anxious or you're going to experience depression, and you're going to be, or panic even, that it's going to be really bad. That's the amygdala working in your life. And then the other one that was shrinking is the part of the brain that allows you to remember and to hold on to memories that bring centering so that you can make good decisions. That shrinks with a lot of stress. So you can no longer remember when you were calm. You can no longer remember what it feels like to be happy. And so when all of those things are shrinking down and all of the stress is getting bigger, then it just creates this spiral effect. And this teacher is just teaching this, right? This is just him being excited about his subject and talking in his class online. And I just thought, that is the coolest thing ever. That totally explains why we are experiencing anxiety and depression and why it's so hard to get out of them, because it creates this spiral effect. And then you have to work hard to hold on to the memories that will enable you to say, I know what it's like to be at peace. I'm going to hold on to that either through music or through exercise to release endorphins or whatever, so that you can get back to the place where that's a part of your life and grow that part of the brain, and then get your amygdala to function within its regular parameters. I think it's fascinating. He thinks it's fascinating. We really love it. I love this teacher because he has them do, they call it a flipped classroom, which for the life of me, I can't figure out why this is flipped. This just seems like the only way to teach. The kids do all of the studying and all of the homework up front, and then they come to class prepared to discuss it and having questions. I don't know how else you can teach. That's the way to go when they're teenagers. So that's what they do, and they show up ready with lots and lots of questions, and it's really fascinating to watch these kids have great questions and coming from their own lives and from their own experience and saying, how does this work in real life? And we have just absolutely loved that anat and phys class. The text that he uses for it is a coloring book, which I thought was kind of funny and maybe cute. And now that we're an entire semester in, I'm like, this is really hard. It's just a really challenging thing because he has to color in detail all of these different systems, all of the different muscles and the bones and the organs, and he's getting right into the nitty-gritty of it. So lots and lots of details that he's having to label and talk about and really understand. And I love it. I think this is just going to give him a great stepping stone into whatever he wants to pursue, because this is one of his interests. So huge props for Well Educated Heart Academy. That has been such a big success. We've really loved that. Moving on to world history. I had several ideas about what we were going to do with world history. This is not one of the things he loves. He does not spend very much time on this, and we don't really do a ton with it. We're talking exposure because this is one of those subjects that he's just kind of getting through, because every student has that. Every human has that, right? I do not like spending time on things that I'm not interested in, but I do enough to get by. And so he's doing enough to get by. And so I've gone through, Marlene Peterson on Libraries of Hope has broken up world history into 12-month segments. And it's pretty much focused on the school months, right? So what is that, 8 or 9 month segments? And for each of these areas of the world, I've picked out a book that really espouses the virtues of that country, or really gives you insight into one of the monumental periods of time for that country. So this month, he's going to be reading A Tale of Two Cities for France. Not a great thing for France. You know, that's kind of one of the worst time periods of France. But you got to know it. You have to know that history. And when you're just doing a quick overview, you're going to talk about World War II. You're going to talk about, you know, the really big things that made history books. So that's what he's doing. It's been a little hard. He read The Red Scarf Girl to learn about China, which is all about the Cultural Revolution and how terrible it was then. So a lot of the world history books have been hard to get through because they're very much those war-like times. And so I don't mind that it's just a little part of what he does. So he reads that book, and then he and I will discuss that book and talk about what's going on there, and maybe what are some of the themes, and how do you notice that people are the same no matter where they're from, and how do you notice when their individual country culture starts influencing the decisions that they make. And just kind of fascinating discussions, because that he does like discussing, but he doesn't necessarily like world history. So we try to work it in through discussions. Then moving on to TJED High, and it stands for Thomas Jefferson Education High School. And he has really enjoyed this, especially because several of the people who are taking his Anat and Phys class are also taking TJED High. They just kind of run in the same circles. And so these kids will stay for an hour after the Anat and Phys class, and they will discuss the books from TJED High. And I'm like, yes, that's so awesome when I'm able to just kind of step back and let them blossom and grow. And it's just exciting. So here's how TJED works. They allow you, or TJED High, they have these different layers that you can choose. The easiest track, which is generally read one book, like a specific book. This is your book for the week. And then do, I think it's 5 comments on the discussion board, and I think that's it. And then the easy track, you do 8 comments on the discussion board. You still just read that same first book. Then you can do the hard track, which is, I think you have to lead a couple of the discussions. You still read that same book, but there are more discussions that you do. And then the hardest track, you have an additional book that is usually complementary to whatever it is that you're learning that week in the easy level. And so it just kind of depends where you are in each level, and not just your interest level. Sometimes it's like, man, I've got a ton going on in my life. I've got a trip I've got to do. I've got a lot of hours at work. I've got whatever. And so it allows you to just kind of choose each week how much you want to buy into this particular class. He often does the hard level. He hasn't bought into the hardest level very often, but he likes doing the hard level. He likes leading the discussions. He likes being involved in a lot of the basic reading that they're doing. And I mean, the basic reading, they're reading big books, and they're reading at least one book a week. So it is a lot of reading. It is a lot of discussing. It has been really good for him to have somebody who's not me, who's saying, hey, you should really read these books. Shakespeare and Animal Farm. Ooh. And but those are like the hard books. There are also some easy books. They read Mistborn, maybe Mistborn. Yeah, I think they read Mistborn. And they have some lighter books that they will do as well. That Charlotte's Web, they read Charlotte's Web once. And so there are lots and lots of books that they are going through throughout the 2 semesters, because 1 book a week at least, sometimes 2, that's a lot of books, and you start really getting a lot into that. And I really like how much he is putting in the time to read these books and be prepared to be a part of the conversation, because he really likes doing discussions. So TJED High has been a really big win for us this year. Then he has a spelling class. There is a lady, bless her, apparently you can't say bless your heart here. That's actually an insult. But where I'm from, bless your heart is not an insult. So bless her heart. I think that she's just doing an amazing job. She meets with them early in the morning. It's 8:30 her time. It's 10:30 my time. They meet online. So it's kids all over the United States. And they get together and they just go over the spelling rules, which is something that I failed to teach him. I didn't do a very good job with this with him. And so he has felt for years like this is something that he's not good at. He's really embarrassed at. He wants to do better at. And so he takes that class. It is a half an hour once a week. It's not a huge thing, but it has really increased his confidence and really gotten him to the place where he feels like he can do these written discussions and not feel embarrassed that maybe he's not spelling things right. So that has been really important. And then paired with that, he's also taking Brave Writer. And Brave Writer, you just kind of work your way through a module every week and learn how to write the 5-paragraph essay, which I will tell you this. I really don't like the idea of a 5-paragraph essay, because I think it takes the creativity and the joy out of writing. It just turns it into this mechanical, check the boxes. I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna say, then I'll tell you what I said, and then I'm gonna tell you what I said before. It is boring and I don't like it. And I think for the most part, that is an accurate read of the situation. But I remember I didn't even like it in high school. And I remember being really bugged by having to do this, and it's so boring. And I thought, I just want to write like C.S. Lewis. I just want to be able to express myself in such a way that people can't wait to get to the next paragraph, because it's so exciting to see the unfolding of your thought process and to see the connections that you're able to make. I think that's how I want to write. I don't want to write a 5-paragraph essay because it's boring and I don't want to do it. And then one day I remember reading C.S. Lewis and thinking, oh my goodness, he's totally following this format where he says, I'm going to tell you this stuff. And then he goes through the meat of it. And then at the end, he's like, kind of in review, this is what I went over. And I thought, shoot, even this great writer that I really look up to, he follows that format. So since then, I've just felt like, okay, you can do it. There's nothing wrong with the format, but it's really easy to fall into this trap of just kind of saying, okay, paragraph 1 is point 1 and paragraph 2 is point 2. And I think, come on, find your passion, find your interest. And yes, if you're going to organize it in a manner that people are going to be able to see what's coming and then be excited about receiving the information and have a real quick review at the end so they can lock it into their memories, that's fine. But don't let it become so formulaic that it's miserable. So he was doing Brave Writer, and it's teaching that format, but it's coming from a place of write your passion, write your interest, because that is what is so important when it comes to communicating. We do it in this format because it does really work with the way that we generally think, but don't get so caught up in that format that you're no longer able to communicate, because that eliminates the point of writing. And writing is such a powerful tool to not only communicate with others, but get really clear on what it is that we believe and we want to communicate. So I like this writing class for him. It's been really good. And the last thing that we're doing is the fallacy detective. Now, we have not actually started doing the fallacy detective this semester because it's taking the place of SAT prep. So for the last semester, we used Khan Academy, SAT prep, and he just really, there was a lot of grinding getting through that. That was unpleasant. I'm glad that's over. I hope he gets a great grade on the SAT and we can just move on, because that was test taking, not his favorite thing. So there's that. But I also feel like he's going to get a good grade. He's good at what he does. He'll get great. He'll be able to go into college and it will be fine. I'm not worried about it. But we did have to kind of train that, especially because he stopped taking public school in first grade was the last time he was in public school. And there is something to be said for knowing how to take a test when it comes time to take a test like SAT. That if you are going in there and you have no idea what they're even asking or why there are letters next to these things, you don't know what a multiple choice thing even is, you don't know how to answer things, you don't know how to narrow it down, it's a real stress and you're going to do way worse on the test than just because of the mechanics of it versus the knowledge. That you have the knowledge, but you just have to learn how to take this test. And in public school, they take tests all the time. And so you don't even recognize that that's a skill and that you understand you have to stay in your seat and you've got to, this designated amount of time and the teacher's going to tell you and eyes down on your paper. All of these things that are not a part of homeschool, you have to teach them so that they can do well. So that's all a part of SAT prep. He's finished that and now he's going to take the test and hopefully that will be awesome. And then logic, he's going to work his way through fallacy detective. And I have talked before about how important I think it is to be able to listen to people's logic or more often their illogic. That when people just, spit out, this is my emotion, and because I'm having a big feeling, I must be right. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And so being able to drill down and say, I'm looking for the logical reasons for your surmise. Why do you believe that this is the accurate way that we ought to do this, or the proper conclusion that you've come to on this reading or whatever? And so having logic in your pocket really helps to be able to drill down and say, I'm not going to get, that's a straw man argument. Don't even waste my time on that. That has nothing to do with trying to find the truth of this situation. So he will be taking the fallacy detective and working his way through that this second semester. And then the other thing I forgot to write down, but he is doing is driver's ed. It's only going to take a couple of weeks for several hours, and then I get to drive him around. I get to have him drive me around, and so more gray will happen, and it will be just super exciting. And so that is what he covers every single week. So this is how we organize it. He's still working on being able to organize his own time. And so this is where we are in that process. He has a notebook that's about that size. This is not his notebook, but I will take that notebook and I will write down for each of his subjects. I'm like, okay, so piano, you have a piano class, you have piano practice, then a nat and phys. You have a nat and phys homework, you have a nat and phys discussion, and then you have a nat and phys class. So I will write down each of the pieces of each of these classes. So it's this big, long list of all the things that he's going to do. And I put on there his chore. He's responsible for keeping the downstairs bathroom clean. That has to happen every day as well. And so when I have all of the classes and all the responsibilities written down, then below that we say Monday, Tuesday, all the way through Friday. And then each day, so then I'll number it all on here, whatever the numbers are. There's usually like 15 or 16 different things. And then he will say, on Monday, I'm going to do these numbers. And he will choose out of that which ones he has to do. Now, some of it is set. If you have a class, that's got to happen on that day. If you're going to work, that's got to happen on that day. So some of it is set, but a lot of it is not. And he's able to say, well, I'm going to spend a lot of time on my TJED reading on Tuesday because I just have time that day and I'm not going to have a lot of time the rest of the week. And so he kind of formats his week as he goes to make sure that he gets everything on that list done. And it has worked really well, that as long as he has that big master list, then he can see this is what I need to accomplish in order to get everything done by the end of the week. And he usually does fabulous at it. I think we've really hit a good rhythm where he's able to accomplish all of that. And just as I was talking, I realized he does have a job. So he also works maybe 5 hours during the school week. So all of that stuff fits inside of his schedule. And that's how he's able to keep track of all of the stuff that he's doing. And most of the stuff he does at this point is passion driven. This is the stuff he loves. He is really interested in most of these subjects. And as a result, I barely have to say anything at all to him. He does not like scheduling them, which is why I write it down for him because that's such a hurdle for him. But he does like actually doing the work associated with them. He really likes watching the videos. He really likes and so there are videos, I don't know if I said this, there are videos with the Anat and Phys class when he says, okay, this is going to be the pages in the book, and then he also has several videos for them to watch. And there are also videos with the TJED class that they will have the Monday video really debriefing the last week's reading, and then they have a Wednesday video that's sometimes it's related to what they are reading and sometimes it's not. It's just, hey, it's like a forum, you know, have you considered this new idea? I just want to expose you to a new idea. Let's talk about economics this week. And so it's really fascinating and he really enjoys all of those things. He really likes doing all of the learning associated with it. I'm not going to say he's always super cheerful about it, because there are times when he's just like, I'm tired. I've been up since 5:30 in the morning. I don't really want to be doing this anymore. We're still human around here, but he really does like learning these subjects, and he really likes the things that we've got set up for him. So that is what a week in the life of my TJED high schooler looks like. And some version of this is basically what we've done with every one of my kids. And so the other two are already on to college and doing well in that environment. So I'm saying this works. This will get your child to a place where they're good socially, a place where they're good academically. I have not run into anything where my kids get to college and say, oh man, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to adapt to this situation. Like, they have run into things. Like my kid who's really big into computers, he was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to write a paper. But you know, we sat him down and we're like, this is how you write a paper, and done. It was done. And he got an A in that class. So I'm not saying I hit all the boxes. I'm not saying I'm perfect at everything. I'm saying they're confident and they can do it. And when we run into things that are like, oh, good heavens, we were not prepared for that, then we just get prepared. We just say, okay, we're not doing great at that. What can we do to get at a better place in that particular subject? So that's my take on it. This can be done. It can be exciting, both in the process and then in seeing what they become as they move on to college, and then hopefully onto a successful life after that. We're not that far yet, but I'm hoping that is the direction that we are going. So I just wanted to let you know, you're doing really, really important things. Being a mom, being a dad really, really matters, and you're doing a much better job than you think you are. Keep it up, and I will see you on the next one.